What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. Taking a look at this Generaider deck profile. Very fun. It's not legal just quite yet. We're almost there. Just got to get Vara here in the TCG, and obviously that'll also come with Boss of Shadows whenever that comes out. I'm sure it'll be a little package deal, which is great. It's so funny. Like literally, these two cards have changed the entire outlook of the deck. Like I don't feel like it really functions without it, without these two cards, outside of being like a little engine, which I've used before. But everything is like insane now. The rank 9 pool is so good. And I'll go over it card by card here. So only one har because everything's accessible and you don't really want to see these in your hand. This card definitely helps change that a little bit. Definitely makes a big difference. And there's like a generator card that like reveal a generator monster and then you can add 2 generator spells and traps. Unfortunately, there's not really like a lot of great generator spells and traps at the current moment. And it just, yeah, I don't know. I don't use this card really because now they kind of have a function in the hand, and you're not guaranteed to have a generator like monster in your hand at any time. You're gonna have them from the field, and when this card is summoned, you can bring one out from hand or graveyard, and if it's in the hand, you can pitch a card and then special summon it too. So tons of versatile effects, which is great. So as long as you use this for an XYZ summon, because it vanishes when it leaves the field, but obviously you can get around that by XYZ summoning, detaching material. As long as you get that loop going, you have an infinite resource loop now with your generator monsters. And each of those, like I said, each of those XYZ monsters are very good that I'll be talking about. So, yeah, 1 har, 2 Var, because you do want to be able to cycle through this twice. Like, every once in a while, this is going to get banished. Your opponent's going to get rid of it, whatever the case may be. And you want to have another one to bring out from the deck. And it's also not, like, terrible to see in your opening hand. So just 2. And then 1 Mardell searches all of your generator spells and traps, which is fantastic. Edgarda is a quick effect banish, and then this card, Generator Boss of Ice, can tribute a generator monster, including itself, to negate a special summon. So Synchro summons, XYZ summons are bye-bye. Can't work with fusion summons because that's just not how Yu-Gi-Oh works, which kind of stinks. But it can also negate link summons, so it's normally like a very good card. It's also just a rank 9, which is fantastic. Lopter, Shadow of the Generator bosses. This lets you tribute itself, bring out a generator monster. A lot of the times that's Mardell. Same thing here with Lone Fire Blossom. Lets you tribute a face-up plant, special summon usually itself, and that last one, when you tribute it, you're going to bring out Mardell. And everything, functions around boss stage, obviously. The deck kind of, that's how it works. But again, with Vara, very different now. If your opponent gets rid of boss stage, you don't lose like automatically like you did before, because this kind of sustains the same model. Like you usually want to keep bringing these ones out, you know what I mean? But you don't want to play more copies of these because they don't do anything in your hand necessarily. And this is my supplemental engine. This is Dogmatika. It's a small engine, and Nadir Servant's so good, and I think it works. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward, but I really do believe that it's worth it because your extra deck isn't too crazy important. You're not going to be doing too much with it. You have a lot of boss monsters coming out from your deck, so you might as well have fun with the extra deck. And it could be a normal summon engine like Alistair, but I think this is a little bit more impactful, especially something like White Knight of Dogmatika. And when you have that Nadir Servant, and if you can send a Herald of Arclight, searching this card out, searching the ritual spell, which is right here. And the ritual spell, when it uses, lets you use extra deck monsters, so you can send Titanclad. So you can just, with one card, you can bring this out, which will, every single time your opponent activates a card, every single turn, you get to rip a card out of their extra deck and send one of your own. And when you can send something like Garua, you get to draw a card. You can send something like Elder Entity Nist, which breaks your opponent's board. You can send something like Wind Pegasus, which is another interruption from the graveyard. And those are great things, and those are supplemental engines that I think the generator stuff is just lacking severely. And that's why I play it. So a little bit of everything. So Maximus can just send, Garou every turn. It can send Elder Entity Nist. It can send Wind Pegasus. It can send Herald. And, if you open Dogmatic Ecclesia, it's fine. You just want to be able to have that Nadir Servant target. And then, you can usually get a lot of cards out of your deck using this engine. 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Effect Veilers, like a hand trap heavy deck. Like you definitely want to stop your opponent as much as possible. And, that goes along with Infinite Impermanence here. And I talked about Nadir Servant, right? Going second, being able to send Elder to search Ecclesia, which can search you the field spell, or not the field spell, like the ritual spell or the ritual monster, or maybe even Fleur. All of those things are very good. I talked about Dogmatica Calamity, Pot of Prosperity. and your extra deck isn't too crazily important, right? You can get rid of some of these tech choices. It's not going to be the end of the world. So you just want to be able to see your cards as much as possible, right? This is a one-card play starter, quote unquote, and it really is. Lone Fire Blossom is the same way. Boss Stage, seeing it in your opening is great as well. But you just want to be able to search all of those cards and fix your hands, because it can be a little awkward. It's 4 technically bricks, technically. Terraforming, you want to be able to search, your field spell. And this card's crazy. World Legacy Monstrosity. This card is bananas. So if you control a level 9 monster, you can bring out 2 others from the deck. Doesn't negate their effects or anything. So what you'll do a lot of the times is bring out Mardell. You can bring out, Vara to get that in rotation. Turn those into, what I usually do is enter Bathnir. And then I get to just pick apart, pick one card out of my opponent's hand. So they start with 5 cards versus my Board of Interruptions. Or you can do something like a Monster Negate with Sacred Tree, Beast, Hibernation. But no matter the case, getting these cards in rotation are just so crazy and obviously very good for you. And I love this card. Generator Boss Stage, this is what the whole deck's about. 3 Imperm and then 1 Generator Boss Room. Onto the extra deck. The Titan Clad I talked about works with Dogmatika Calamity. Garua is just a free draw one that you can use all the time. I love it when I pick something out of my opponent's deck. I don't necessarily need to send Elder at the moment, but I get rid of one of my opponent's extra deck monsters for free, and then I also get to draw a card. Like, that's a very good loop that you'll end up going into. So 2 of those, honestly, again, there's a lot of space, and maybe something that you can banish off Pot of Prosperity, kind of the same idea. 3 Elder Entity Nest, you want to be able to use this over and over and over again. Wind Pegasus Agnister is just one of those good cards to send to the graveyard. Herald of the Arclight, this searches ritual monsters and ritual spells. Enter Bathnir, here comes the lineup of incredibly good, versatile, rank 9 monsters. So this either banishes a card from your opponent's hand, banishes a card they control, it doesn't target, by the way. I think gets rid of one of your cards from your graveyard, or can banish the top card of their deck. All of them good effects, right? All of them situationally good. This is Merlogic Aggregator. If this card is XYZ summon, send 1 monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. That's already good. You can send Garua, you can send Elder, right? Maybe if you need a Papa card. Kind of gives you that versatility. You can target monsters in your graveyard up to the number of materials this card has. Detach materials from this card equal to the number of those targets. And if you do, attach those targets to this card as material. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 face-up card in the field and negate its effects till the end of the turn. Like, those are all good effects. Every single one of those. Being able to send a card to the graveyard. Being able to grab stuff, I guess, to this card. I wish it said in the graveyards, right? Being able to attach your opponent's cards, but nonetheless, tons of good things that you can do with this card. Really fun to have in the extra deck, and obviously no other deck in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has access to it because it's a rank 9. And that comes to Sacred Tree Beast. This is just a monster negate, so it's going to have 2 monsters during your opponent's turn. When they activate a card, when you activate a card or effect, you can target one of those cards of the same type in your graveyard. So if you activate a spell, you can grab a spell to it. And it's kind of like reverse. It's Macabre in a sense that if you have the material, you can attach it from it. So it's like the XYZ version of Macabre, and it just has those materials. And it's good, right? It's a very good one to go into. It's just a general negate. This is the new one. This is Leviathan, and this card lets you quick effect. Basically, it's going to have 2 materials almost every time. So what it's going to do is going to tribute itself, and it lets you attach 2 monsters from any field or graveyard. So if your opponent has 2 really important monsters that can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't target, it doesn't do anything like that, it doesn't destroy. All of it is good. It lets you just take 2 of those monsters, attach it to his material, and what you're going to do is you're going to go into the Generator Boss of Eternity. I think in the future there's also going to be a different Generator Boss monster, because it leaves it open, a non-fairy Generator XYZ monster. So that'll probably be something in the future, but this card's not bad. In fact, this card works really, 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 really well with Har. Forces each opponent to draw a card, and then each of you has to attach one of the cards you drew to the card. And what's going to happen is your opponent's going to draw a card, which is going to trigger a Har. When your opponent draws a card, they have to discard a monster or send a monster from field, either their hand or field, to the graveyard. So if your opponent doesn't have any monsters in their hand, you're going to force your opponent to draw a card, and they have to discard another one, especially going on to turn 0 if you can make this card, which I've done before. or in any scenario, just in the late games. In late game scenarios, this card is just kind of like over the top. There's not really much your opponent's going to be able to do. If they only have one card in their hand, they're gonna lose their entire hand most likely, because they're gonna have one card. You force the draw. They're gonna have to attach one, and that's gonna trigger the effect. Opponent discards the other monster. Very good loop. 9 lives cat. So 2 level 9 monsters. Your opponent cannot target other monster control that were special summoned from the graveyard with card effects. That's fine. You can attach one material from this card, then target a level 9 monster in your graveyard, or one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it. So this one's just kind of this is like one of those replaceable ones. Kind of an interesting effect. You never know. Usually just one of those targets you banish off a Pot of Prosperity. But I can see it being used every once in a while. I talked about Generaider, Boss of Eternity, and the Nightmare Cerberus. It's just that general, you never know when you're going to need, like, more specifically, like thinking of something. Baguska is not a great example because the Generaider monsters play around stuff like Baguska. They tribute themselves so they won't be on the field, and that can do it. But there's just probably a myriad of things, and I guess you could probably turn this into another nightmare monster like Phoenix. Like, those cards obviously have a lot of versatility, but Cerberus is usually the one that I keep in those like desperate situations. And it could even get like things off the board that you don't want. Like if you want to get Vara off the board, like I've gone into this, and that can give you advantage. And if you discard like a Generaider monster off of it, you can just bring it back with Vara. It doesn't really matter if it's in your hand or graveyard, and all that kind of good stuff. Side deck doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just kind of a side deck. Lightning Storm, Raigeki, evenly matched. Harpies, Cosmic Cyclones, Dark Ruler. Nothing too surprising there, I think, for anybody. But that is my deck profile for Generaider. Hopefully these cards come out soon. I don't know when they're supposed to. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that's going to do it for today's video. And I'll see you guys next time.